Good afternoon, third year English honors students. Let's discuss a little bit about the poem Daddy by Sylvia Plath. Of course, this is one poem that we have discussed extensively in the class, but the short questions were left undiscussed. For that, let's summarize the poem first. It is a confessional poem written in the year 1962, later posthumously published under the collection of poems known as Ariel poems, Ariel. And Sylvia Plath, of course, one of the most celebrated American poets, and her experiences as a woman and has given her a literary space in this vast discourse of feminist literature and poetry from the West. So the feminist perspective in her poetry is an area that is extensively discussed. Apart from feminist, of course, one intermingles with or overlaps with the other. The psychoanalysis plays a very important role in her poems. And when we look at Daddy, the title itself, it is an endearing, a very childlike way of referring to one's father, particularly by daughters. It's not dad, it's daddy. So the title itself suggests that it is about a father, and that too from the perspective of a daughter who loves him a lot, and it has a childlike inclination to it, the word daddy, almost like a nursery rhyme. So that actually is the area to discuss a lot. It builds the title, it itself builds the entire text to be discussed upon. So it was a confessional poem, and it is actually about the narrator is a girl who has lost her father when she was a young woman, and as it is a modern poet, the complexity, the macabre of the modern world is very much present in the poem, as she dislikes her father. In fact, she is happy that he is gone, for she has missed him so much that it has tormented her psychology. It has emotionally tattered her to such an extent because of the early loss of her father, that now there is a point in the poem where she refers to him as a bastard and even confesses that I loved you so much, I missed you so much, that I even created an image of you and was with a man whom I thought was like you. So this is a painful a confession of a daughter who misses her father, who died when she was a young girl. Of course, it is autobiographical in nature because Sylvia Plath lost her father, Otto Plath, when she was 8 years old, and she lost him to diabetes. He was amputated, his toe was amputated because of gangrene, and he belonged to Poland. So there is this German identity attached to the father. So this is the personal side. Now, what makes this poem so relevant is because there is this intermingling or overlapping of the personal and the political, the individual and the society. Now, personal is this loss of a daughter, she misses her father, and the political is that she somehow relates her pain, she relates her trauma, her terror to the Holocaust. The Holocaust of the Second World War, as we already know, where millions of Jews were persecuted in Hitler's Germany by the Nazis. They were taken to gas chambers. They were, and inside those gas chambers, these Jews, this community was killed. There was like an ethnic cleansing, a genocide was committed on the on the Jews by the Nazis. So the interesting fact is she equalizes or relates her trauma of losing the father, of attempting a suicide, to that of the relationship between the Jews and the Nazis. So somehow, as I already mentioned, she being a woman, her experiences have gained a very important space when it comes to feminist discourse in the West. So her experiences as a woman, or experience of women in general in this patriarchal framework of society, is equated to the experience of the Jews, the helpless Jews in the all-powerful Nazi Germany. So the Germans are the patriarchal society, and the Jews are the women in it, the female in it, the marginalized female. Similarly, if we look at the personal front, the narrator is like the helpless Jew, the Jews who are persecuted, the powerless, the marginalized, on the fringes Jews, whereas the man, first her father in her life is a Nazi, and so is the man that she married later on. That forms the crux of the entire poem. It is a modern, deeply tragic, twisted, and extremely layered poem, like all modern poems are. And the most important aspect of the poem is this equation, the father-daughter equation and the Nazi-Jew equation. So let's look at it. Let's break down the poem for the short questions first. First and the foremost, it is a confessional poem and is somehow related to a nursery rhyme. It is this dark world where the narrator confesses of attempting to commit a suicide, is picturized from a world of nursery rhymes. So the juxtaposition between the childish nursery rhymes and this macabre adult world is fascinating, extremely modern, as it is complex, because modern poetry, one integral characteristic of modern poetry is its complexity. Because they said, Ezra Pound said, T.S. Eliot said, that the world is no more a beautiful place, like the Romantics projected it to be. Nothing is simple in this world, as their predecessor, the Romantics, projected it to be. Nevertheless, when you come back to the poem, so she starts, of course, with daddy, and there is this little sort of a nursery rhyme, kind of rhyming of the poem that we see.